Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pour It On, a special December holiday version of Pour It On. I am joined by my friends and confidants and co-hosts, Shaun Emerson and Chris Lozier, and this is our podcast about male friendship and life's challenges and joys and making the most of our time together. And I am Ben Feller, happy to be the leader of this episode of our conversation. Excited to get into a year-end topic that is something that has really been on my mind, gents, which I'll jump into in just a second. But first of all, happy holidays. Great to see you both. Quick gut check, as we like to do for each other and for our listeners. How you both doing? Shaun, I'll start with you.
I am doing well. Good to be with you guys. Got my Christmas card from the Fellers today. And for you listeners who maybe got one as well, you notice that Pour It On was prominently displayed on a Christmas card. I'm sure, like my wife, she's like, what are you guys doing on this Christmas card? It's a big deal. We're a big deal.
Big deal.
So I'm digging it, and it's good to be with you guys.
Thank you. How you doing,
my
Chris?
turn.
It is your turn.
I'm doing great. I'm really excited about tonight's topic. I'm really excited to talk about the travesty of Notre Dame not making it into the college football playoffs.
Oh, Jesus. Are you going to actually bring that up?
Look, I've coped. I've processed the whole thing. I think it's bullshit, but it's the last thing in the world I want to talk about. I am happy to be here with you, and I'm so happy to be here with you that I did pour myself a proper old fashioned. So cheers to you guys.
Nice.
Nice.
And I know,
Cheers.
Ben, you're a little under the weather, so I appreciate you gotten this one out.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Gotta play a little hurt. It's the holiday season here, coming to you from New York. So, all right, here's what I'd love to get your thoughts on tonight. And the topic is life's chapters. And when we tend to talk about chapters of our lives, it's always looking back, when I was in college or in this first job I had, or, that relationship. And it's always clear when you do that. But, as Shaun has noted, we are men of a certain age, and who knows how many chapters we'll have left. And I think it's really important to try to be aware of the chapters that we're in now. And when I think about this and look at my own, there are some that, and I'm talking professionally and personally, geographically, some that ended probably when they should have, and some that I stayed in or hung on to too long. And it's a really cool thing if you could kind of check in with yourself and know how you're doing and when it's time to appreciate a chapter and stay in it and appreciate it and love it. And then there were times to say, like, I think it's time for a new one. So I'm just curious to start with how you both know when a chapter of life is done and it's time for a new one. I'll start with that. Chris, what do you think?
Man, there's so much there. There's so much there. Ooh. Shaun and I just had a conversation with this guy, Pete Davis, who great guy, gave a commencement speech at his university about options and this kind of, this, if you're lucky enough to have options, and, I think the three of us have it relatively easy and we've been blessed. You walk down this hallway and you have multiple doors that you can choose from. And so, that's one of the things I think about. It's like there are people that can't, decide that this current chapter is not good for them and choose another chapter. So I want to start by saying that. But I've definitely been there before, and I think about things in the same context that you're describing. And I guess just to start, and I'm going to turn it over to Shaun here just to get us going here, but the one thing I think I do know is that making decisions about the chapters of life is not a solo endeavor, right? Like if you try to do that by yourself without talking to your partner, your kids, your friends, your therapist, you might end up going down the wrong road. And so, I'm gonna leave it at that for now. But it's like my hard-earned lesson was talk to people,
Mm.
bounce these ideas off of other people. So, Shaun,
I think sometimes, well, not sometimes. I mean, I know that in my pursuit of new chapters, I have gone down, you know, the wrong. I don't know if in the end it may have been the wrong road, but you don't know what that road led to. Sometimes you have to go down
Hmm.
the wrong road to get to the right road. When it comes to chapters for me, I mean, it often is okay. Is how I'm living today. Is it less joyful? Is it less challenging? Is it less curious? I mean, so at a time when however I was or whatever I was doing had all those things, and I think for me it's kind of a natural thing. Over time, that begins to wane, and so I start. I was going to say, I think sometimes like I've changed chapters based on the next shiny object, which isn't which isn't a good way to manage it. But those aspects of what I'm doing or who I am, if those things are waning, then I'm starting to consider what's next.
can I offer one more
Please.
sort of caveat or table setting thought that I'm having? My, I'm not bragging about this, but my inclination can be that was the wrong door. I'm looking for the right door, and I think I'm guessing that you guys would both agree that it's not that binary, right? It's not that black and white. Like sometimes you go into a door that's not the optimal door, but you learn something about yourself, you learn something about how you want to live your life or whatever, and that helps you figure out what the next, fork in the road, which way to go is. So, it's nothing you said, Shaun, made me think that, but it's something that was in the back of my mind.
Yeah, I think that where you guys both landed is so important to dig into some more because this idea that you make choices and if you find out that that chapter didn't go how you wanted it to, or maybe it did, but for not as long, or maybe it was just flat out the wrong road, that that's all part of your story and it just leads you to do other things is really healthy, but it's not necessarily how life feels to a lot of people. When they do those things, they're like, I made a wrong choice. Like I took a step back. Like I left something good for I thought something better and it turned out not to be, whether that's a relationship or moving from the city to the country, because you thought you wanted a different lifestyle. And so it's hard for I think a lot of people to look at it positively. Like there are no bad chapters.
Mhm.
They're all leading to, what's next. I don't know if you all know anybody who live that way, but it's a healthy way to think about it that, this is not about which chapters were successes and failures. They're all part of the success of your exploration, right? I'm curious what chapters you all think that you're in now.
Oof.
You know, I've been thinking a lot for all kinds of reasons. And sometimes it's triggered when I'm looking for a photo in my phone, right? In the big disorganized mass of photos on my iPhone and I'm searching through and I'm like, "Oh my God, like look how young my son was." Or I remember that trip or wow, we've done so much, you
Yeah.
know? And life is just packed with these moments. But I
Hmm.
also when I look at those photos, I'm like, "Oh, that was a chapter of my life when I was more rested, more physically fit, like hanging out with friends a little bit more. And that was a chapter of my life when I got really into like reading political reflections, And I didn't think that way when I was doing them. Like now's the
Right.
time we're going to read more about this in this 7 months. But when I look back, I see these shifts, you know, and I'm curious if you guys have any way that you would frame kind of what chapters you're in right now.
Yeah, I know you're pointing at me. Well, just because of what you just said, Ben. I'm struggling a little bit with the idea of okay, what chapter am
Yeah.
I in? Um, I mean, I could say that 2014 to 2020 was the yoga chapter. And that created a foundation to, then I got into the, if you will, the Men Living chapter, which I've been, consumed with for the last 5 years, 6 years. And that's, I think, more about doing things than being. And, I think would require some more reflection to look at it and say, okay, well, how much different have I been? How different am I in this chapter, and what is this chapter to bring? I will say that I do feel like I'm there, that I am going to be entering a new chapter. Coming up here, and so. Is that going to test me? Is that one of the aspects of it? It's going to be, testing my skills or having me figure out some things differently. I think it will still be a part of, because some of those things that you move from chapter to chapter, you don't let go of, right? Community and engagement and pouring on, I think, things like that. So what am I keeping as I move from this chapter or that chapter to this one? Because those are foundational, right? I mean,
Yeah.
to me, they're foundational as I move forward.
Was that a reveal that we should be made aware of, that you're entering a new chapter?
Yeah, I was going to follow up there too.
Maybe it's maybe it's a reveal. I mean, you guys know that I've been thinking about what's next, so I just don't know exactly what it is yet. I'm close, but more to come, more to be revealed.
Yeah, boy, that's a cliffhanger right there, Ben.
Right.
Do you approve of that? Is that allowed?
You no, but I mean, maybe it would make you feel more at ease, Shaun, if I just said, "Look, it's just the three of us chatting." You know.
Well, I actually want I want the percentage to be higher than 70%, which is where.
Okay. Okay.
So.
Yeah, but whatever it is, and thank you for teasing
Yes.
up a future episode for us. It kind of makes one of my points, which is like you're clearly
Yes.
thinking about
Yep.
it in real time, and I think that's just a healthy thing, to be able to do that. And also, you sort of snuck in,
Right.
pour it on as a reference there. I was gonna say, what the hell are you thinking, man? Like, there's only one right answer here. This is your
Right.
pour it on chapter.
Right. Exactly.
Something that Shaun did say that strikes me and makes me think is, no matter how one parses their life and their career and their family life and everything else, I feel like there's some common threads or common denominators or consistencies that at least I want to be true through all of those, right? So it may be, okay, I'm going to turn the page on this career chapter and I'm going to go to something else. But I mean, there are certain things that I need to be true, or I hope will be true or more true with each subsequent chapter, which is personal fulfillment, feeling like I'm doing all that I can to, make my life better, the people in my life, their lives be better as well. So, I mean, I think that is the grounding consideration for me in all these things. I feel like that's kind of where you were heading with what you were saying too, Shaun. Did I misread that?
No.
Yeah, those are really good criteria, to be in. Are there are there cases where you could look back on your life and look at a chapter, not to judge yourself poorly, but to say, boy, I kind of hung on to that one.
1,000%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you think was going on there?
Ooh, well, there's a lot to unpack.
See, now Sean's gonna pop a beer for the
Well,
first time.
that was actually
It's
probably
like,
part of the problem. Well, probably. I mean, I think I would have to say ego was probably a big part of it. Immaturity.
Yeah, I can point to
Yeah.
the same things. I mean, ego in instances that I can point to where I stayed in something too long, ego in on the occasions where I was chasing something that I thought was bigger, that I was either I thought I was capable of, or even more pretentiously, I thought I was deserving of, you know.
Hmm.
I I'm happy to say that I've gotten a little bit wiser. and those things are not as important to me as they once were. And I think that's okay too. Like, so if you're 25 or you're 35 and you're listening to this,
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
for it. Like, get out there, hustle, do this and that, chase the big thing. But keep in mind all those other factors. Like, is this what you want? Is this what your loved ones want? Does this enable you to show up the way you want in your vocational part of life as opposed to your occupational part of life?
How do you think we're doing with the 25 to 35 demo? I mean, you
We're
think we
crushing
get?
it. We're
Are
pretty
we?
much crushing it.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
You mean with this podcast?
I don't know what percentage of our audience is in that age group. I was just curious.
Fair question. It's a good question. It's a legitimate question. And I haven't thought about it before, but when I do think about what it is we're here doing,
Yeah.
including on this episode,
Yeah.
these are conversations that I wish I would have engaged in when I was 25 and 35.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of the point, right? You guys steered us there early on with what
Right.
you asked the young version of yourself. And yeah, I'm thinking about this random idea just came into my head, memory of when I worked at the White House. My first boss was a legend whose name is Terry Hunt. And I don't know if Terry listens to this podcast. I'll have to tell him I gave him a plug and get him to start listening. Anyway, the White House press pool at the time was represented by the AP and Reuters and Bloomberg and a newspaper representative, and it rotated. Like, we decided which one of us would go in there, but there was a set mix of folks. And Terry would tell me by the time I got to the White House, he's like, because they would always, the press handlers from the White House would always say, run, run, because the president was ahead of us. And if we wanted to capture what was happening, we had to get out of the vans in the motorcade and run to where he was, because he's not going to wait. And Terry said, like, I'm at the stage in my life where, like, I'm not running. I'm just not running. And I thought, well, like, you have to run. I mean, you're the lead guy for the AP. How are you gonna? And he's like, I'm just
I'm
not
not
doing it.
gonna run.
And so we were. I was covering this trip with Obama, and we get out of the little van. I forget even where we were, but the president's limo was going to pull up into this driveway at like a presidential palace, and the motorcade was like circling behind. So we were quite a bit far behind, and they're like, and the press aide was like, run, just like, and I'm like, okay. And I'm sprinting up there, and I'm looking back, and like the rest of the press corps, the press pool is not running. And then I get up there, and all Obama does is the guy comes out, they shake hands, and they walk in. And I'm like,
I'm sweating.
I didn't actually need to run. Terry was right. Except, see, Terry could say that
Right.
because he was in that chapter.
Right.
Yes.
And I wasn't in that chapter, but you guys know me.
Right.
I'm not just going to let that go. So here's what I do. I take out my phone, right? And I move to a place where, like, I'm not going to get picked up by anything else. And I wait for everybody else to walk up. And I'm on the phone, and I go, pretend like I'm talking to my editor. I'm like, no, let me say it again. Bulletin this. Obama going to Cuba. First president to go, right? Since the embargo. All right. And I go, I don't know when. I didn't and the looks on the faces of everybody else was like, oh my God, we missed that because we didn't run. And I put the phone on my chest, and I'm just fucking with you all. I go, but next time you should probably run. And there was this guy from the National Security Council who came up to me. He's like, Ben, that was pretty good.
That's good.
But I remember when he said that, and I had the flip happen recently with a situation at work where we was going with something, and I said to my teammate, I'm like, basically, here's what I said to the client.
Yeah.
Like, this is where we are. This is exactly what he said. And my colleague said, I look forward to the day when I can say that, because he
Yeah.
wasn't in that chapter yet, And I don't like skipping chapters. I have all kinds of respect for that. But I just remember thinking in one of those moments, like, why can he say that? Because he's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah.
run. Like, it's beneath me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not good for me anymore. And I think that's a healthy
But
perspective,
I will argue that it cuts both ways too. Like I, I no longer want to pursue status or prestige or whatever, like I may have when I was younger. But I don't want to lose that energy. Like that I do want to maintain
Mm.
that energy through until the day I die of, yeah, I'll fucking run for something I care about. Yeah,
No, because I think that speaks to, I think, the way I'm feeling about that is as I move to different chapters in my life, there's foundational aspects of who I am that probably don't change.
Mhm.
And even though I'm 62, what did my Spotify Wrapped said I was a 31-year-old listener. I actually feel younger than that. 38,
Wow.
382 genres, Chris, by the way.
Wow. I was 70, by the way. I
Yeah.
was 70.
Wow.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
You were
31.
31,
Yes.
Sean? What are you listening to?
382 different genres, Ben. So I put on list. I go look. I said, "Hey, making dinner on a Tuesday night," and I pick a list and I just play it in the background. 45,000 minutes of music.
You need to
Last
pick a
year.
lane, dude. You're having trouble
No,
committing.
no,
Yeah.
no, no, no.
No,
No.
I would.
I love shaking it. I love shaking it up. But anyways, I feel like I'm 30, and so as I go into each chapter, the running thing, I mean, it's just kind of who I am. So I'm just using it. If that was my thing, I'm still running. Now, I might not be able to run
Yeah.
run as fast as I used to, and I might pull a hammy when I'm doing it, but because it's how I'm made,
Yeah, I think that's amazing, and I would really appreciate it if you send me any of your Spotify playlists. I think Chris, hearing that back, Terry's point was not
Yeah.
I'm slowing down, but rather I'm because he went hard the whole time. It was rather
Yeah.
what do I choose to do
Yep.
and choose not to do
Yep.
in this chapter of life, and sometimes you have to kind of earn your way into that.
Yeah, no,
You know?
no, and this was I'm not I don't want to risk smearing Terry because I get that, and and there that is something that lingers in the back of my head is like, okay, I mean, where was I recently? It was on the podcast with Pete Davis of If You Come This Far, where it's like I can't remember shit anymore, right? Like there's this as I progress through life and go from chapter to chapter, I am always thinking of like, how do I stay young? Can I do all this? Can I make all this
Yeah.
progress and maintain my youth? Which is, I don't even know if that's even germane to this conversation, but that's kind of what troubles me.
I think it's germane in the sense that you both have defined chapters ahead that you want to have based on happiness and joy and fulfillment. And when I walk by restaurants in the summertime and I see people laughing and relaxing, or dinner parties, whatever, they're of all different ages. It's not just the young people who are enjoying themselves; the people of all ages are, and so they would probably say, the people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, like, yeah, this keeps me young, but it's really just it's about
Yeah.
keeping me happy.
I was going to say, I think at some point, I mean, I'm older than you guys, but a chapter's going to come where I'm not going to be able to do probably the things that I want to do. And how do I adapt to that? Because I mean, for the most part, that really hasn't happened yet, whether it be physically or joyfully or curiously. I mean, I get to continue to do things. I'm able to connect with the world in a way that allows me to do those things. And I may get to a point where how I do that if I can do that, may be different, and or may not be able to.
Yeah.
Or you could get hit by a bus tomorrow, which goes back to something one of you two guys said before, which was like, okay, chapters are great, progress is great, growth is great, but you got like at a bare minimum, you got to embrace whatever fucking chapter you're in, right?
Well, yeah, because if that happens, then the book the book is done with no nice
Yeah.
ending.
Yes.
Nice, and he was talking about this, and he got hit by a bus. I mean, that's not a
Yeah.
good way to end the book.
No, no, it's rather depressing.
Well, it is, and Shaun, that shall not happen to you. Chris and I will help make sure of it. But if it did, I'd come in and I'd write you a hell of a
Of
nice
course,
ending. I mean, I would channel all my skills.
that's my boy. That's
Now
my.
they're not as considerable as they once
No,
was because that
I'll
chapter
write you a
ended. But
song and I'll perform it at your funeral.
Nice. I'm
Guaranteed.
not having one of those. But
Yeah. we
that's nice. But
so here's the other question on this I wanted to ask you guys is learning from the chapters that you've had. Not just reflecting, did you stay in them too long? What do you miss? What are you happy about? But what did you learn? And you mentioned that a couple times, Shaun, the foundational elements of the lives we've already led. Do you guys think you do a good job of that? Of if there was a chapter of professional change, or how you were with your, how's it going in your marriages or with your kids or anything, where you say like, yeah, I'm actually doing this differently now because of how that went back then.
All the time. I mean, but I talk a lot in my professional life about continuous improvement, and that, I feel like I've gotten better at that, right? Better about paying attention to what I didn't do as well as I would have liked to have done. An example I would give is this notion of 7 good minutes that came up in a podcast that Shaun and I did probably a year ago, which is like just being present. Like there's a swath of my life when my two daughters were younger than they are now, where I was so caught up in other shit that I wasn't present for them, which I now put at the
Hmm.
top of the heap in terms of my own priorities. And so I don't know. I like to think that I'm learning and paying attention and getting better all the time. But what would you say, Shaun?
I would say probably again carrying things over. Some things I carried over that were good, and some things I probably carried over to other chapters that weren't, but learned too. So everyone is, because I'm different in every situation as well, and so I would say that it's been a mix. Probably as I've gotten older, again these issues of less ego, more maturity, I've done better with the learnings, but still do some things where it's like, well, what am I doing that?
Oh, for sure.
I mean, wait, what? I know
Yeah.
how this is going to play out because it's played out 10 times like that before. So, yeah, still happens. I was going to ask Ben. I was going to ask Ben to answer it though.
Yeah. Wait, what was my question?
Have you learned from chapter to
Have you
chapter?
learned anything? Have you
Right.
learned anything?
Yeah.
Just run. I was still chasing that presidential motorcade in my head. Yeah, I have. It's a careful balance, Chris, because if you do it too much, you're in your head. Like I was in this position before, and what did I do, and what could I do different? And you can lose a little bit of the instinct to act and or to embrace, like, yeah, I that may have been that situation here, but this one's different. I don't know. I really do try to do it. I'm certainly very aware of it in parenting, things that I used to do, and how can I adjust. I'm try to get better at it all the time with adult conversations, which, you know, when is it worth it just to say, okay, like, okay, that's not how I would do it, or I don't know that that's going to come back and help me later or be reciprocated, but for now it's just okay. And there are still things that I struggle with in at the end of 2025 that I did at the beginning, and I'm like, damn, I wish I would have gotten better at that. I'm still struggling with that. But I think looking at my life, I definitely have learned from other chapters. And to your point, maturity and ego, huge part of it. But mostly now it's like I've been focused the last several years on the pursuit of happiness and trying to remember that like that's what matters. Are you
Mhm.
healthy? Are you happy? Are you being good to the people that you love around you? And are the decisions that you're making in service of that? And it's just a good ballast, I think,
Yeah.
for me. Now, all that would be easier. It's like, oh, that sounds really healthy. You're always learning and the right criteria, but you still have to have things be working. Like if you're always struggling, you can have all the awareness in the world. You need some of these things to pay off. That's where this is the last part I wanted to ask you guys about. Well, I'll save that question. Chris, did
Well,
you had a different question
it
for me?
was somewhat related. I
Yeah.
mean, it goes back to this notion that, the three of us at least are blessed to be able to choose different paths periodically through life.
Hmm.
And Shaun knows this better than anyone. And Ben, you know this because you were on, if you've come this far as a guest twice. But I'm beyond fascinated with how people got to where they are as adults in whatever part of their life they're in. And that is so often informed by their parents, like where and by whom they were raised. And
Hmm.
so, I mean, I think about my parents, and I don't even know if this conversation would have made sense to them, right? Chapters of life, because it was day to day, hour to
Hmm.
hour. It was like, pay the utility bills, pay for their kids to go to a Catholic school. I just want to acknowledge briefly, as I may have tried to do ineloquently before, that yeah, I just feel lucky that I can even have some say in what when this chapter ends and when the next
Yeah,
one begins and what will it be.
that's a great bit of perspective. And no, I don't think these conversations would have made sense a generation ago. It would have been like,
Hmm.
what does that mean? How did you know? It's too touchy feely. Like, do the thing in front of you, finish it, do the
Yeah.
next thing in front of you, you know? And if you're grinding your way through life, there's a lot of honor in that. But how are those things adding up to the life that you want to have? That's the conversation we're having. And I don't think it's had enough. And I don't think it's had enough by men because it's just like, well, what do you mean? Just do the thing. Like you guys are talking about it, are you being vulnerable? Are you being happy? Are you being fulfilled? You started Chris with you can't do it alone. Who are you turning to? Like these are
Hmm.
not traditional male topics, but I don't think it's because men weren't wanting them or thinking about them.
Well, yeah, I mean, so I'm just about done with Tom Freston's biography memoir, Unplugged, and yeah, he's one of the guys that he ran Viacom for a while and was there at the beginning of MTV, and so he's accounting his whole life by chapter, and so when you talk about that, I think it's interesting to being in the middle of that story to think about how his life changed, the choices that he made, what he had, what he didn't have, the luck that was involved in
Hmm.
some of the evolution of who he was, and I think all those play a lot into it for all of us over time. I mean, it's like, well, was I really choosing the end of that chapter and the beginning of another one, or is it such that the circumstances of life led me down to select that door or do that thing? And yeah, sometimes, I mean, we could have a whole conversation about free will and how much of that are choices that we make versus hands that we are dealt. So yeah, talking about that, Chris, made me think about reading that story just now, because
Mm.
I firmly believe that some of it isn't my choice. It's just kind of like,
Mm.
okay, this is the direction I got pushed in for some reason.
Yeah. I'm going to bring it back. I know we're running out of time here, but I'm going to bring it back to the college football playoffs for just one
Mhm.
second. Uh, you guys are like, where the fuck is this guy going right now?
Just
Um, and this is a little bit tongue in cheek, but all of the debate, and this is, this goes back to my frustration with Notre Dame not getting into the college playoffs, and there was so much debate about quality of wins. And I was always frustrated, like there was no conversation anywhere. You can hardly find it about the quality of losses. Like Notre Dame lost two games, the first two games of the season by 3 points. Alabama got blown out, had -6 net rushing yards against Georgia in the last game of the season, blah, blah. I think that's relevant here because I have made the decision to close chapters in my life. And I like to think that maybe even it wasn't a loss, but if it was a loss, it was a quality loss, right? Like it wasn't perfect, but it wasn't a failure. I didn't
Mhm.
fucking, throw 5 interceptions and gain net six, -6 yards rushing. Gave it my best shot, fought a good battle, and it's okay to move on, right? And so that's my really lame attempt, and it was not just to get Notre Dame football into the conversation, but I do think that that's relevant here as I go through life and reflect back on my chapters.
That was pretty deft. I really liked what you said, but also clearly, Sean, Chris is living in his Notre Dame didn't make
Can we
the
move
playoff
on?
the
Can
playoff
we get him
chapter.
some tissues? Get him some tissues, and let's move on.
You know,
Jesus, good losses. I love it when people bring up, "Oh no, it was a good loss."
I have really been a champion of being
Yeah.
vulnerable on this podcast, and I think that, yeah, I think Chris, you don't know this, but I got the leaked audio of when you and Sean were debating whether or not to even do this with me, and Chris was like, I don't know. Does that guy have a lot of wins? And Sean's like, yeah, he's got a hell of a lot of quality losses. I mean, that Feller guy loses, but they're notable, but barely. They're notable losses.
There's a lot
Like,
of them, but they're close.
yes. And being a Penn Stater, oh my God, it's in our blood. Um, so so I know we're wrapping up here, but that's so interesting that you took it there, Chris, because I have to bring up. It's not a movie quote, Sean, but it's adjacent to a movie quote. So George Clooney has this movie out, and to promote it, he's been on some podcasts, and there's one that he did on failure. And he was asked about it, and he gave this answer, which is basically like, in this business, there's so much failure, but you know, you
Right.
you got to be out there, you got to be trying, you got to expect it, because that's how you get to success. He's like, and then he's like, I have a lot of friends who just didn't do that, and they didn't try those things, and now they have something worse, which is regret. And he was basically saying that they carry it around. He's like, I wish I would have tried that. I wish I would have done that. And he's like, that's a really tough one at this age because you don't get to go back and do it again. And so, I think part of what I'm trying to do in these chapters is to not see them as failures. I know what he was going with that, but like, just, if something doesn't work the way you want it to, that's not a failure. It's not a failure of effort. It's not a failure of imagination. It's just part of life's journey. I'm not totally there in my mind, but I really am trying to get there because I think it's true. Like otherwise you'd have everybody would go to the back of the quiz,
Uh-huh.
right, where the answers are, and just do that. Like you don't get to do that in life, and so I don't think it's healthy to think about things that don't last as long as you want or lasted too long, and say like that was a failure.
Yeah.
That's like it's part of life. I mean, what do you guys think?
I think no one goes undefeated.
Especially Notre Dame. I am totally bought into that. I mean, I even think, lately I started to think about, okay, so my kids are moving into new places. It's like, well, if you don't like moving to the suburbs, in a period that you can move back to the city, or if that job didn't work out, you tried it. If you don't like it, you can go to a new one. I mean, and I was never about, okay, if you want to, hey, I think I want to try band, and then a week in you don't like band. I wasn't about, oh, you got to stay because you made a commitment. If you're trying it, I wanted to instill the idea that if you're really trying it and you're not digging it, don't do it. Do something else. Because
Yeah.
if you stick there, you may lose an opportunity to do the thing that was really going to be what you wanted to do or who you wanted to be or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Any final thoughts on that one, Chris?
My final thought is that I love what you just said, Shaun, and it opens up seven other different roads I think we could go down. I mean, I said earlier, what I don't want to lose is this willingness to run and pursue and chase and strive. And I also don't want to lose. And I think that if you were to map the risk aversion of the average person over the course of life, risk aversion goes up, right? Risk tolerance goes down. And I don't want my risk tolerance to go to zero, right? Like I want to be willing to take a chance here and there. It could be going back to Pete Davis. It could be that I'm going to try the new George Clooney movie, right?
Hmm.
And yeah, I could lose 2 hours of my life, but it's like that's living, right? That's trying
Yep.
and doing whatever. So that's my closing thought on that little piece. But I could go on forever and ever. But I'm out of whiskey, so
Yeah.
I'm
And
done.
nobody wants that. Nobody wants you going on forever and ever.
No, I thought you meant nobody wants me to run out
The
of
the
whiskey.
Well, that too. I don't want that for you.
I don't want that either. I will bring us home this way, which is to say, with absolute earnestness, that this chapter of life that I'm in includes delving into the podcast world with the two of you. And the goal wasn't let's find a topic and then find our hosts and find the platform. It was no, I want to do something with Chris and Sean that's real and authentic and that matters.
Yep.
And I think we're doing it. But it's a great chapter to be in. Started in 2025, halfway through the year, and I'm really so happy and proud to be doing this with you guys. And so I say that also to all of our listeners. I love the comments. They come up in the funniest ways as little bank shots to other conversations or text or screenshots. A friend of mine sent me her Spotify
Yeah.
rap was her top 5 podcasts, and it was like four of the biggest in American history and us. And I'm like, yes, right? And so it's great stuff. But anyway, I want to just say and end this chapter by saying thanks to you both.
Right back at you.
I would do it every week if you guys wanted to do it every week. Listeners are like, no, that's plenty. But this is good.
This is good.
So I enjoy us making this time.
Yeah, appreciate you. So to everyone who's joined Pour It On this year, thank you. Stay with us. We got a big year ahead. When life's challenges make you want to bottle it in, don't do that. Pour it on with us. I'm Ben. That's Sean. That's Chris. And more to come in the new year. But happy holidays, safe holidays, and have a great one.
Thanks, boys.
Have a great one, guys.